Hey, thanks for stopping by. One thing that myth is blunt about when it comes to the third quarter, sometimes it's even brutal, is that if you really want to keep growing, you often have to let go of some part of who you've always been. Here's the story on that. Persephone is a goddess. She's young, she's beautiful, her world is bright. Hers is the world of spring, the world where youth feels endless. Then Hades comes up out of the ground, grabs her, and takes her into the underworld. She doesn't choose it, there's no consent. She's pulled into a dark world that she doesn't understand, one that she would never voluntarily enter. Demeter is her mother, also a goddess. And back above ground, Demeter freaks out when she can't find her daughter, searches everywhere, she's frantic. She wants her daughter back. And some great stuff happens along the way in the story, but today I want to focus just on the end, when Demeter travels into the underworld and talks with Hades about getting her daughter back. Eventually a deal is made, and Hades says, okay, Persephone can go back with you. And Demeter, so she calls her daughter, she says, come on girl, let's go. And almost without thinking, she says, you didn't eat anything down here, did you? Persephone says, well, yeah, I had a few pomegranate seeds. And suddenly, the room changes. Everybody freezes because everyone knows what that means. In the ancient world, eating the food of a place binds you to it. It's not a technicality. This is fate. And the realization lands like a blow. Now, she can't be taken back to her world. So imagine Demeter in that moment. She's fought her way into the underworld. She's negotiated with the king down there. She's done everything a mother can to get her child back, and now she learns that something irreversible has already happened. The daughter she lost can't be fully recovered. I say fully because Hades cuts him a break. He says that Persephone has to stay as his queen. That's what she remains. She's known then thereafter as Queen of the Underworld. And she's got to stay because she's crossed a line that can't be uncrossed, Rubicon and all that. But he also lets her return to her former world for half the year. He says, you can go back, but only half the year. Then you got to come back to me for the other half. Now, an important thing to know here is that Demeter is the goddess of crops and agriculture. So this explains why we have 6 months of warm and fertile weather when Demeter feels the joy of being with her daughter, and then 6 months when the world is cold and barren, when she mourns their separation. Now, let's use this story as a lens through which to look at the third quarter and midlife. Because from that perspective, Persephone, man, that's what happens to all of us sooner or later. We get taken into a new reality that we didn't expect. Well, I don't know, maybe we expected it, but we sure didn't request it, and we didn't know it would be like this. Sometimes it happens because of an illness, or a loss, or a divorce, or a career shock, or something like that. Or maybe it's quieter. Maybe it's just the body aging and we realize, oh my God, I'm changing. You know, the hair gets grayer or thinner. There's a slower recovery after a workout. Pick up basketball. Or we can't remember the name of that folk singer. You know, she was married to that guy and he looked like that actor was in that movie that you liked when we were visiting your friend. These are all examples of loss of youth, and they can feel like abductions. And this myth, like so many others, is crystal clear. You don't get to return to the old self unchanged. The young self can't be recovered the way Demeter wants. But that doesn't necessarily mean the story is only tragic. It means the threshold is real. Because the consolation in the myth, that's also real. In allowing the former self to die, Persephone becomes something else, a queen, a person with authority, a person with depth. Now notice real quick that we're reading mythologically here. In the plot, it's still a tragedy full of violence and violation. But when we read mythologically, we take a step back and we ask what a story might be telling us about ourselves and what we might need to look at or think about. And mythologically speaking, this one says that a painful transition will sometimes offer some really powerful benefits. And we can do this same thing that we were just doing with Persephone's story. We can do the same thing with Demeter. She has to let go of the maternal illusion that her daughter will remain youthful and that she'll have her by her side forever. In the same way, anybody who's entering or dealing with midlife has to become disabused of the belief that the early version of themselves and their body will remain eternally young. Demeter has to let go of a fantasy that many of us still secretly carry, that we can keep the springtime self intact. And it's disorienting, yes, confusing, painful, but it's also rich with possibility if we stop trying to claw our way back to the spring. By the time Ovid takes us to the end of the story, Persephone belongs to two realms, earth and underworld. And that's kind of where we go. That's like all of us when we move into midlife. There's decline and regression, sure. Did I mention the day after pickup basketball? But they're combined with new strengths and awareness as well. This is the paradox that myth gives us. Letting go comes with embracing. The release precedes the new identity. The young self doesn't come back. So the death of an old identity is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of depth. So right now, if you're feeling like you've crossed into a season you didn't choose, if you're grieving an earlier version of yourself, man, you're not alone and you're not broken. You're probably in the third quarter. And the work might not be to get back to who you were. It might be to become someone who can live in two worlds with an identity based on who you once were, yeah, but also who you're becoming. And it might be time to let go of an attachment to the old world so you can more fully explore who you are in the new one. I don't know. Maybe some of that's worth considering. Thanks, y'all, for watching. Hit that subscribe button if you're interested, and I don't know, maybe tell a friend.